So my overall vision for a thriving Edmonton is doing a whole bunch of little things right. We've got to make sure that the city has affordable. There's a bunch of different things. So I'll just kind of go through a list, not in any order of importance, but kind of the things that I think about. So we have to make sure that there's a thriving economy. People are going to live where they can get a job or start a business. We have to make sure that housing stock is reasonably priced. We have to make sure we have a vibrant education system from zero to wherever, which we do, but we have to maintain that. We have to make sure there's interesting things in the city to do and see, and festivals and restaurants and obviously River Valley activities and that sort of thing. And we have to make sure that everyone has the same opportunity to succeed here, no matter where they're from, what their background is, and the like. And we've got to make sure that we put all these things and 100 things more together to make sure that the city is a place that people are going to want to live and thrive. My priorities for the public services that are in our communities are to make sure that they're effective and that they're strong, and they do what they're intended to do. 30% of our employment, which means 30% really of our economy, is public servants, people in the healthcare, education fields, government, of course. And so, we've got to make sure that they're put in a position where they can be as effective as possible and make significant contributions to our city. And so that's part of our plans, is to make sure that that's the case. My position on public and private partnerships is that there actually aren't enough. I'm a fan of leveraging both sides. The public sector wants to do a lot of good things in the city, and they do. The private sector wants to make contributions to the city, and they do. And I actually think the private sector hasn't been leveraged enough. There's many things like, for example, affordable housing and other things like that the private sector really wants to make a contribution, and not because they're self-serving. They want to succeed as well, but they're really wanting to make a contribution to the city. And I actually think that's been underutilized. And so we've got to ensure going forward that we have a strong public service and also a strong private sector. And one of the ways we can do that is to get better partnerships between the two of them to succeed in whatever projects or opportunities are in front of us. My priorities for the city's transportation network is to have success in any mode of transportation that people want to transport themselves or others in. And so, when I was on city council last term, I pushed quite aggressively to get the West LRT funded and built, and I'm pretty happy that that's coming down the track. No pun intended, but that's coming ahead. So that's all good. And so we also have to deal with the new bus system that is in place now and make sure that that's successful. And we spent a lot of time and money and effort redesigning that, so we have to make sure that that is successful. But also that means we may need to change it to some degree going forward. But let's see how that rolls out, and then we'll go from there. Rolls out. I seem to be using lots of little puns. Hilarious. And then, whether if somebody wants to drive their vehicle or ride their bike or walk, we have to build infrastructure and maintain that infrastructure so people can get around however they choose. 70% of people drive currently. About, between 15 and 20 take transit as their primary source of getting around the city. 5% bike and 5% walk is about the numbers. And so we have to make sure that, again, no matter how people choose to get around, we have to allow that, of course, and then put resources towards it. Over time, people are going to be moving to transit. We all know that's coming. More people are going to be moving to transit, but we have to make sure, in order for that to happen, that we have a very excellent service, which, to be frank, we don't. And so we have to, again, if you want to persuade people to use other modes of transportation, you have to make it as easy as possible for them. So that's the mode that they choose. In regards to the changes to electoral financing laws that the province made changes are on, my role as a person running for mayor of the city, and then my role as being the mayor of the city, I don't think it's the mayor's place to be commenting on policies that are in place by the provincial or federal governments. I think that's gotten us in trouble in the past. The provincial and federal governments are elected for a reason, and whether you like the current one or you want a new one in any level of government, that's really not the role of the mayor to say. And so my role is to do what's best for the city of Edmonton, and so I don't I don't I don't have a personal opinion about policies that are put up by the province or the federal government. What I do is do the best that's to try to persuade it, maybe behind the scenes, maybe in public in time. But at this point, I'm not going to comment on any policies that the province or the federal government put in place. Yes, I can talk about our campaign financing directly for sure. Happy to do that. We've announced that we're going to be disclosing all of our donations well in advance of the election date. We're also not involved in any PACs whatsoever. Zero, none, zilch. So what we're doing is raising money within the campaign rules of personal donations from people from within Alberta, of course, vast majority Edmonton, and up to the campaign limits. And that's all that we're doing is following the rules, and we're going to be disclosing the people that donated, the individuals that donated before the campaign is over. Our plan to address housing and homelessness is quite complex, and actually we haven't released it yet. It's coming out in the next couple of weeks before September. I can hit you some of the some of the highlights and some of the way that we're thinking about this. The housing challenges and the homeless challenges in the city of Edmonton is pretty significant. In fact, it's grown over the course of the pandemic. Before COVID started, there was about 1,500 people that are homeless in the city, that were homeless at the time. And now it's over 2,500, so it's grown by 1,000 people or so. But it's also quite a high increase, obviously, by those numbers as a percentage. So it's a significant problem in our city. The challenge is that it's very complex. There's people that need a little bit of help, they need a step up, and then there's some people at the other extreme that are going to need housing and wraparound mental health addiction services for the rest of their lives, and then there's everything in between. And so there's not one thing that we need to do that's going to be a panacea for the problem. We've got to support the population by providing housing for those that need it, and I've actually committed in our campaign to spend more capital dollars on housing units, 200 units a year to start. And then we've got to partner with other levels of government to deal with the addiction and the mental health challenges. That's not in the purview of the city, and it's obviously very expensive, and city budgets are never going to be enough to fund that. We only get 6 cents on the tax dollar as a municipality, and we've got enough challenges of our own that we just practically can't do that. So we've got to get other levels of government involved, and then we've got to partner with a lot of the social service agencies and get them to be doing things a bit more efficiently. And then, as I mentioned earlier on another question, there's an opportunity to partner with the private sector who want to help, and they want to help in helping to provide units or converting existing buildings into affordable housing units and that sort of thing. And so this is an all hands on deck problem. We're not going to solve it. Unfortunately, there's always going to be people that fall into homelessness, and we've got to make sure that their time is brief, non-chronic, non-reoccurring, and help as many people as possible. And so we've got a full plan coming out, but that's generally the way that I look at these things. It's going to be an all hands on deck to try to mitigate this and help as many people as we can. My plans to address the fiscal challenges that we have between the city and the province are a few. Number one, we've got the city of Edmonton right now has an awful, terrible relationship with the provincial government, and we need to repair that. We're not getting our fair share of provincial funding. If you look at funding towards our airport and the Calgary airport or the U of A cuts compared to the U of C cuts, and the money going into the technology sector in Calgary from the province and not going into the technology sector in Edmonton, although ours is actually stronger and with our connections to the U of A and such, is a significant problem. And we have a terrible relationship with the provincial government. And to be perfectly blunt, I absolutely blame the mayor's office with that. We're stuck on this ideological belief. And as I said earlier, it's the mayor's role in Edmonton to get the best deal for the city of Edmonton and the citizens of Edmonton exclusively. That's all they should be thinking about and doing. And in my view, that's not happening right now. So I'm going to be spending a lot of time repairing that relationship. And then if there's another government in place in a couple of years or whenever the next election is, and it's a different government, I have the exact same attitude towards that. Is I'll be spending a lot of time building that relationship to try to get the best deal from them for the city of Edmonton. And then there's the relationship with the federal government, which the municipalities really don't have as much say in that as people might think. Our relationship and where a mayor can influence is really at the provincial level. The federal government gives money for their programs to all the different municipalities, and in fact, over the last decade, the city of Edmonton, if you look at it per person, has gotten significantly less money on affordable housing and transit and even environmental funding than virtually any other city in the country. And so, we may think we've got a great relationship with our federal government, but really they just fund whatever they're going to fund for the most part. So it's really about the relationship with the provincial government that we have to fix. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time doing that to try to get the best deal for the city. Well, I'll throw out a closing comment about what voters I think should know about me in case they don't. My background is in the private sector, as I think a lot of people know. I have the 4 years I did at city council, so I understand how the place works. But I'm not exclusively, as some people may think, a hard-nosed business person. I do come from a private sector background, but I ran for city council and I'm running to be mayor to do something good for everybody. And a core piece of our platform is the Edmonton for Everyone, and we've got a way that we are going to fund and make contributions to people that need help, to be blunt, in our city. Unfortunately, there's many families that are living, around the poverty line or below. There's many kids that need help. There's seniors that need help. There's people that are underemployed that need help, that are making minimum wage, and we've got some programs that we're going to help train them up and get them out to, making a good salary to get their families out of poverty. And so, we've got a lot of social issues that we're going to be addressing, and we're going to be addressing them in a very practical way. I get quite frustrated when people are talking about all these kind of things at a really high level and trying to make a utopian world and the such. And I'm more of a sort of doer, and I'm, going to try to help as many people as possible with the appropriate amount of funding that we have, because it's pretty challenging, to be blunt. And so I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about that and a lot of time doing that when selected. So otherwise, thank you very much for having me. I appreciate it.